The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Shoot to Thrill. I'm your host, Vince Russo. You know this is the video interview show. I stole it from AC/DC. I'm just going to tell you, listen, if I owe royalties to Angus Young, I have no problem with that whatsoever. Shoot to kill, shoot to thrill means we get down to the crux of the person I'm talking to. No mamby-pamby, you won the title this year, you lost the title that year, and what was your greatest feud? I could care less. I know these people. I got questions I want to ask. There's a lot we're going to discuss. We're going to get to things that he's probably never spoken about before. And I want to say this up top, and I mean this. I worked for 3 different companies, all the major companies, WWE, WCW, TNA. And I have to tell you, with the thousands of wrestlers I probably worked for in 20 years, I believe this is the most underrated performer that I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And I think there's a reason for that. And we're going to get into that during the course of our conversation. But I'm going to bring him on now. He's a friend, and he's a 2-time TNA world champion. Listen, this is a world champion on the show now. This ain't he was a tag team champion too, but this is a big deal. This is really a big deal because I'm talking about the one and only Mr. Bobby Roode. Bobby, are you there?
I am here, Vince. How are you?
Bobby, let me first ask you this, bro. Not for anything, because, I get criticized a lot. I'm a horrible guy. I'm a horrible human being, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Can you explain to the folks at home, Bobby, where you got that lovely jersey?
Well, I'm not going to tell a lie here, Vince. This Steve Yzerman game-worn home Detroit Red Wings jersey was given to me by you, of course. But the story continues. Let me tell you how it actually went down. You told me when I saw you in Orlando at television, you said, bro, I know you're a huge Red Wings fan. I've got a game-worn Yzerman jersey. And I was ready to punch you in your face for calling him Yzerman. But you came good with the jersey, and I'm proudly wearing it right now.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, and I will say too, Bobby, you put it on immediately and wore it the rest of that day, bro.
Oh, of course I did. Of course I did.
Now, Bobby, you are a huge hockey fan. I know that. You just educated me. I'm not a big NHL guy, bro. So, I don't know. I know the Red Wings are in. I know you got a big Game 6 tonight against Tampa Bay to move on. But listen, be honest with me, Bobby. And I know he's a friend, but I got to tell you, man, I kind of got a little sick to my stomach yesterday when I saw a tweet by Eric Young because his beloved Predators were ousted out of the playoffs. And, and Eric puts up this tweet how proud he was and how, how hard they played. And give me a freaking break, EY. The freaking Predators lost. They went home losers. Now, Bobby, listen, man to man, I would have to expect. You're not going to expect anything less from the Red Wings than bringing home a Stanley Cup. Is that correct?
Absolutely. This is 24 years in a row we've made the playoffs. 24 years in a row. It's incredible. And I saw the tweets too from Eric Young, and I agree. It also made me want to vomit. But did you see him at the home game the night before in Nashville on the ice? Pumping up the crowd.
Yeah.
No wonder he's mad. They won that night. So if there was another game to go, he would have been back on the ice, of course, back in Nashville. So his feelings are hurt all the way around.
And also, listen, Bobby, I don't want to, first of all, bro, 24 years in a row is ridiculous. I had no idea. That's ridiculous. And, listen, Bobby, I don't want to get into anything and, but, bro, I'm still not buying a hockey team in Nashville. I mean, bro, come on. You got the Detroit Red Wings. You got the Chicago Blackhawks, the history of the Rangers, all those freaking great teams in Canada. Bro, the Nashville Predators, come on, bro.
No, I agree. I mean, but you know what they did? They had a great season this year. I mean, regular season, they showed well. They had a great goaltender. But when it comes down to it, the city in hockey, it just doesn't flow for me, right? I mean, it doesn't make much sense. They did get great crowds. I mean, they've been in the league for a while now. Next year, they're hosting the All-Star Game. Can you believe that? They're hosting the All-Star Game, which is bizarre to me. But, it is what it is. They had a decent season. The season's over. Red Wing season isn't. We're still going, so I'm proud of that.
And I also too, Bobby, not for anything. Listen, I love Eric Young, lovely guy, but I also have to think, bro, talk about hopping on a gravy train. I mean, the Nashville Predators have been in existence for only so long. Eric Young is a hockey fanatic. He grew up on hockey. Oh, okay, bro. So now I'm in Nashville and I'm gonna jump on the Predator gravy train, bro. I don't buy that whole thing, bro.
I don't buy it either. And you know what the sickening part of it is at the beginning of the year, he's cheering for the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. And I'm like, and I said to him, Eric, I thought Nashville was your team. He goes, yeah, I got two favorite teams. That alone is illegal.
Yeah, bro, that's like
you can't have two favorite teams.
Bro, that's anybody that knows anything about sports knows that that's ridiculous. But Bobby, I got to ask you this, bro. You are like a phenomenal, great athlete. Forget about wrestler, athlete. Bobby, I would have to think loving the sport the way you do, you had to have early ambitions of wanting to play hockey, no?
Yeah, of course. Here, growing up in Canada, we learned to skate really at the same time we learned to walk. So I had a hockey stick in my hand at 3 years old and played pretty competitively up till I was about 19, 20. I still love the game my boys play, so very involved in their sports and in hockey especially. So still a big fan of, and it was my first love even before professional. Wrestling was a close second. But hockey's always been my number one sport and passion.
Well, Bobby, what made you stop? Because, bro, this is the kind of guy you are. Because, I know you, so I can get a little bit more, in detail of the Bobby Roode I know. Because, bro, you have two very things going for you that a lot of people don't. First of all, bro, you're a great athlete. You're a natural athlete. But second of all, Bobby, what I always loved about you is the professionalism and the determination. You have a determination to be the best every time you go out. So, bro, I would have to think, not even knowing it, I would have to think you were probably a hell of a hockey player. You played until you were 20. What happened? You get to a certain point, and believe me, in Canada, where I played, there was a lot of very, very good hockey players, much better than I. But I was fortunate enough to play with these guys and got to play at a high level and, had a lot of fun. But you just get to a certain point, I guess, a certain age where you know that you're not going to be able to pay your bills playing hockey, and it just becomes a hobby. I played, like I said, pretty competitively till I was 19 or 20. It doesn't mean I stopped playing. I played every week in a pretty high level men's league. So, I kept the blades on, kept playing the game, and but my passion turned to wrestling pretty quickly. Bro, did it turn to wrestling, or were you at any time doing both?
No. I mean, when I didn't start training in wrestling till I was 22. So, I still played hockey. I played in a men's league till I was 30. I think 28, 30. So, I still played the game but wrestling really took over my life at that point.
Let's start there, Bobby, because, bro, here's the thing. I worked with you for almost 10 years, and I'm oblivious to anything that's going on because, we have a show to do. So as far as background and things like that, I don't even get to have a conversation with you. I had no idea, bro, you were trained by Sean Morley until I read up about it. Is that true?
Yeah, it is true. Sean and I were good friends. And he lived in Markham, Ontario, which is about an hour from where I live in Peterborough. He moved closer to me. His family moved about 20 minutes from where I live, and we met each other at a gym. I think I was 20 years old. Met him at the gym. Knew he was a wrestler, so we kind of just hit it off. I was a fan of wrestling. He at that time he was back and forth from Puerto Rico, a little bit in Mexico, a little bit in Japan. So at the time he wasn't Val Venus. He was just he was Sean Morley to me and a friend. And I kind of put it out there that I was a wrestling fan, and always wanted to kind of get in the ring and try it. And he had his own ring. So one day he invited me out to his house, and that honestly, I've always said in every interview I did, as soon as I stepped foot in that ring, it was over. That was what I needed to do. That was what I was put on this earth to do, was to wrestle. And we trained a little bit, not a lot, but we trained just enough for me to want to learn more. And obviously he went off to bigger and better things in the WWE. Had a great career, but he started me out. He broke me in, and gave me a lot of guidance along the way.
Bro, you want to talk about like being oblivious to stuff? I worked with Sean over at the WWE. I kind of, work with him in creating Val Venus and doing all that. So I work pretty closely to him. Bro, this is how oblivious I am to things. I have no idea, like literally, what a pot enthusiast Sean Morley is till like a month ago when I see he's this. I mean, that's how like out of the loop I am, that I had no idea working with him, because bro, he was so intelligent with the politics and this and that. The last thing I'm thinking of is, this guy's a pothead. But I mean, does that go way back to when he started training you? I mean, was Morley always that way and I just freaking missed it?
No, not that I was aware of. That whole thing just kind of I think came about in the last maybe 5-6 years. Maybe I'm wrong, but when I first met Sean, he was pretty straight-laced, just guy that always wanted to go to the gym and ate right and thought about wrestling 24/7. So he's I haven't actually had contact with Sean in probably 3 or 4 years. I see his sister around town because she still lives here, but I haven't spoken to Sean in a while. I actually reached out to him when we were in Phoenix for Bound for Glory a couple of years ago, but never heard back from him. So I hope he's doing well.
Hey, Bobby, I got to ask you this question. Is that right now, are you in your house?
Yes.
Bro,
yes.
Is that like a log cabin gimmick? Or, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that looks freaking out. Bro, I always wanted to freaking live in a log cabin. I don't know why, but that looks awesome. Is that literally a log cabin?
No, this is my the basement of my house, my rec room, kind of like my man cave. So the guy who actually I bought it off of was a huge outdoorsman, a fisherman. So he did all this work, and I just came down and hung all my stuff on it. But it's cozy. I got a nice little fireplace rocking here.
Oh, nice, bro.
Yeah. So yeah, it's my man cave.
Now, Bobby, you have, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have 3 boys.
Yes.
Are any of them still with you, or are they out of the house, or what's that situation?
I have 2 boys that are with me. Yes, that a 14-year-old and my 11-year-old just turned 11. So, yeah.
And what's the oldest one do, Bobby?
He's he's finishing up school. He's doing some work. He's not sure what he wants to do. Just trying to find himself. Just being a 19-year-old boy.
Bro, Bobby, my kids like hated wrestling and like weren't wrestling fans. How are your kids when it comes to what you do for a living and you being in the business for so long? I mean, are they fans of the sport? Do they have other interests? Did you pass that down to them?
Not really. No, they're all different. They all have other interests. My youngest, he was interested in it for a while just because it was cool to see me on TV, but he's a hockey kid, and a lacrosse kid. He's so active and plays all kinds of different sports and stuff. So, he'll watch wrestling every now and again, and I think he just enjoys all sports. So, I don't think the wrestling bug is cut onto any of them.
Now, you said the youngest ones are 14 and 11.
Yes.
Are they at the age already where they're already cooler than dad in their minds?
I think so. I don't know. I think, when it comes to, to wrestling, like I took him to took them both to a house show that we did in Toronto a couple years ago, and they were more interested in going up and talking to the other guys and seeing the other guys than it was to watch Dad or hang out with Dad. So they're more intrigued with the other guys that I work with, and which is cool. I guess I'm just Dad to them, which at the end of the day, that's all I want anyways.
Yeah. Bobby, I got to hit you now over the head with this thing, bro, because listen, I'm criticized for a lot of things, bro. David Arquette, putting the title on myself, killing WCW, and the list goes on and on and on. But listen, bro, you were involved in a couple of things that from a creative standpoint are very questionable to me, Bobby. So we got to go down memory road because there are two things that I need to bring up to your attention. Now, very early on in your career, is it true or not that you went by the moniker of Totally Awesome, bro?
We all got to start somewhere. as embarrassing as that is, that was me.
Yeah, bro. I saw Totally Awesome, and I said, "No way, bro."
I got that out of a bodybuilding magazine. Lee Haney was a huge bodybuilder.
Yeah, I know that name. Yeah, I know him, bro.
And I think he actually had the nickname Totally Awesome or whatever. And I just took it, and I was like, "That's my wrestling name." I needed something.
So at a point in time, and at that young age, you believe that was a good name.
Yes. Unfortunately, okay. I did.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, bro, here's another one, though, Bobby. And bro, this one needs an explanation because, I get totally awesome. I get that. It's kind of cute, little cute. This one, bro, you got to explain to me because now you went from Totally Awesome and now you're involved in a faction. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, Bobby. Maybe it was a typo, but I'm reading that the faction was Blood, Sweat, and Ears.
That was a promotion, a wrestling promotion in Toronto. Man, that's way back. I can't even remember who was involved in that, but it was they would run wrestling shows in downtown Toronto, and it would be a wrestling show, and then there would be a concert right after. So it was wrestling and music. I want to say it was like once a month. I mean, if I got booked on it, I very rarely worked for them, I believe. But again, you got to start somewhere.
So, Bobby, the Ears is the music connection?
Correct. Yeah.
Because, bro, I was thinking when I saw Blood, Sweat, and Ears, the first thing that came to my mind was, okay, blood and sweat I get. And then I'm thinking, okay, you have to have cauliflower ears to be a part of this. I mean, that's the first thing I thought, bro.
I wish it was like that, but no, it was music and wrestling. So I guess I don't even think that exists anymore. I don't think.
I hope not, bro, for both our sakes. But, Bobby,
Exactly.
listen, I got to go over a couple of things with you here. And I'm not going to go over, instances and this and that. But I want to look at broad strokes with you because here's where I think you're underrated. Bro, when I say underrated, I think people immediately think I mean wrestler. And I think, some people would agree to that. Some people would not agree with that because they would say, no, he's a great wrestler. We all say he's a great wrestler, so he's not underrated. I think you're underrated when it comes to a couple of strong points that you really have that I don't think people look at and give you credit for because you are such a remarkable wrestler. Bobby, you've been in many different stages of your career, and I like to break them up into, gosh, there was really 5. I'll break them down into 5 stages. You went through the Team Canada period. Then you went through the Tracy Brooks period, which I want to talk about. From there, you went to BM Money. Then you went to what was the group of you guys under Flair? What was that called? What was that? Fortune. And then, of course, now you're Bobby Roode, the individual 2-time world heavyweight champion. Bobby, here's the thing, bro, and I was there for a lot of this. And this is the one thing, I think is incredible about you that I don't think many people look at when it comes to your career and understand. when you're working with people, Bobby, when you're in a group with various people, okay, you have to have chemistry with these people. If there's no chemistry, bro, it doesn't work. Now, you would think, Bobby, okay, Team Canada, that's a gimme. You know, all you guys were under Demore. You know, he brought most of you guys in. Some guys were in Canada. Some guys were on the other side in Detroit. A lot of you guys knew each other. So that was a gimme. I mean, there was going to be chemistry there, and there without a doubt was. Listen, before though I move on to the next thing, I have to ask you a question that has plagued me forever. Scott Demore, nice guy, did a lot, bro, for the early years of TNA, and still has his mark on TNA today, because a lot of the great wrestlers are still with the company, like you and Eric and whatnot. But, bro, I never understood those. During those Team Canada promos, Scott Demore would end every promo by barking at the camera. Could you give me a little insight into that, Bobby?
I can't. That was just Scott. I guess Scott being Scott. I mean, when in the Team Canada days, we would normally end the promos with singing our national anthem, and then all of a sudden Scott started barking at the camera. So I don't know how that segued into that, but it was what it was.
Okay, now Bobby, I want to get into phase two, because this, bro, you know what it is, Bobby? You've been at TNA for like almost 12 years now, over 11 years. So now you got a body of work that we can literally break down into pieces. Here's a part of it, bro. I loved this body of it. I love the Tracy Brooke years, and it was about 2007 and 2008. And Bobby, I'm gonna bring people behind the curtain a little bit. And I really hope you don't mind, but it's important that they know. And I don't want to kill your gimmick or anything like this. Bobby Roode is one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my life. One of the most respectful men I've ever met in my life. You know, when you work with somebody for 10 years, you're not going to agree on everything. And obviously we didn't. But the way Bobby presented himself, you know, so responsible, like a gentleman, respectful. There was never an argument. There were never voices raised. He was just always like the nicest guy. Bobby, I have to ask you something. Now, let's turn it to in front of the camera, where you are an absolute prick to Tracy Brooks. Believable out the wazoo. I mean, tremendous character. Again, Bobby, I go back to the underrated, because knowing how nice you are behind the scenes, and then all of a sudden camera on, and I want to freaking punch this prick in the face. Bobby, how, as a professional, and you're not a trained actor, you're a trained wrestler, bro, how difficult though, Bobby, is that for you to be one way in real life, but then, bro, go out in front of people and in front of that camera and on national television, be such a freaking prick that I believe that's the way this guy is in real life. Bobby, you're not an actor, so was that difficult for you? Was that something you really had to work at? Was it hard for you to do?
Honestly, thinking back now, it seems like it was forever ago, but I never really felt uncomfortable doing it. I think it's just with the people you work with, you know, and you're comfortable with it. And it's like almost like a switch, you know, and I don't know if other wrestlers feel that, but it's, you know, I am a totally different guy than what you see on TV most times. But yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's just you just get caught up in the moment. You know your job, what you have to do, you know, and you just go out there and you just do it, you know. And fortunately for me, I was working with, you know, some great people, and you know, at the time, the gimmick and stuff, I was totally, you know, when you're into what you're doing, when you're excited about the angle or the in-ring or the match or the person you get to work with, I think that makes things so much better. And at that time, I was young, you know, I was excited, and just being really in my very first angle in professional wrestling on television. I think I just soaked it all in and just went out there and just gave it my all.
Well, now, Bobby, let's move to the next body of work, because again, being behind the scenes, I was privy to a lot of things that a lot of people weren't. Let's go to the Beer Money years. And I want to say this like publicly, without a question of a doubt. Beer Money was Bobby and James's idea. It was their baby. The name was their baby. From A to Z, it was you guys, and it was incredible. But here's the thing again, Bobby. Again, this is where the underrated comes in. Bro, I love James Storm. As a matter of fact, Bobby, just so you know, I'm leaving for Germany in 3 days, and I think Storm's on the same tour over there. So I'm going to get to see James and spend a little time with him. I'm excited about that. But listen, bro, from a New Yorker, James Storm is about as redneck cowboy as you get, bro. I mean, you talk about the real deal. That's James Storm. Great guy, redneck cowboy. Here comes Bobby Roode from Detroit. He's got that Canadian flavor to him, an absolute laid-back gentleman. And here we go again. The chemistry with you and Storm through the freaking roof. Now, bro, you got to understand, I was around during the days of America's Most Wanted. And, those guys will tell you differently. But, Storm and Harris did not get along as well as Storm and Rude. That's a fact. But now, bro, now you go from Tracy, and I'm doing this angle with this woman, and unbelievable. Now, bro, we seamlessly walk into this next angle with Storm, somebody who is the complete opposite of us. Bobby, going into that relationship and knowing, how different you guys were, was there ever any doubt in your mind that, maybe this isn't going to work? We're so opposite. Maybe we're not going to mesh together. What the frig was it in your mind and James's mind, to his credit, that you guys just knew if we came together, we'll be a great team?
Well, I mean, obviously I had some tag team experience with Team Canada. James, obviously, like you said, was with Chris Harris, and was extremely successful. And at the time, like you said, I mean, I was on TV, and I was the first time that I was having my very first singles push as a wrestler, right before this. And James as well. I mean, America's Most Wanted split up as well at that same time. And James was off doing some single stuff. I think he was in a pretty heated angle with Rhino at the time. They did that big scaffold match, the very first scaffold match we had. They were doing that. And I think at the time we had Peyton Banks came in, and the whole angle with Tracy Brooks and Peyton Banks was as my manager. And we went off and did some stuff with Booker T and Charmel. And then all of a sudden it was kind of like things were quiet. Once those angles were done, there was really nothing. And you may know better, Vince, because you were there. There was really nothing that me or James could sink our teeth into singles-wise. And I remember coming to TV, and Dutch Mantel came up to us and said that we had a tag match that night, that we were tag teaming. And James and I were just kind of, we were kind of pissed off, honestly. And we were like, I don't understand. Are we failing here? Because we both felt like we were both getting over as singles guys. And we went out there, and I want to say the match was with LAX. And we went out there. We had a great match, and I believe the next week we came back and we had another match. We did it again. I think it was with LAX, and I remember doing a pre-tape with you, Vince, in the back, and you're producing it. And it was after the match we won, and I remember we did there wasn't really a lot written. You were kind of just giving us bullet points, and I was off, talking, and Jackie Moore was there too, because she was with James at the time, and we were kind of just going off and. I was being in my character, and James, of course, was the redneck cowboy going off. And I remember the last thing that he said was the two things that make this world go round is beer and money. And all of a sudden you said cut, and you said, that's it, guys. That's your name. And away we went. And we were like, holy crap. I think we got a diamond in the rough here. And next thing you knew, we were tag team champions. And, 4 years of that, merchandise sales, we ended up going from a top heel tag team to the top babyface tag team in a matter of weeks, months. So that was definitely a different thing for me. But as far as chemistry goes, James and I had amazing chemistry.
Amazing chemistry. Yeah. And bro, you know what I love about you guys, bro? And Bobby, this doesn't happen all the time. As a matter of fact, it's very rare. Bro, usually when you have all this success as a tag team and you split up, one guy usually gets over and the other guy doesn't. For whatever, bro, I mean, obviously Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty is your perfect example. But what I love about you guys you were both over together and you are both over separately, because that's how great performers you are. Bobby, I want to ask you this. I want to get a little bit into your psyche, for a little bit. I want to switch over to the Flair and Hogan time. Obviously, bro, these two, legends in the business. No two bigger names, bro. There aren't. Those are the two biggest names in the business. They come to TNA. I want to ask you, Bobby, working with them for the period of time that you did, what did you take away from each individual? Like, what did you learn from a Ric Flair? What did you learn from a Hulk Hogan that helped you up your game that only people like them could pass along?
I remember that first night when Hulk was there, and Rick came in the same night. It was a live show. It was a Monday. No, it wasn't a Monday. I don't know what night it was. I just remember it being a live show, and James and I weren't booked on it. So I remember you pulling us aside and having us do a live shot with Rick arriving to the building. And I was the first guy in the line that shook Rick's hand. And I mean, Rick, to me, was the man. As I got into wrestling, Ric Flair was the man. As a kid growing up, from 7 or 8 years old, growing up watching wrestling on TV, Hulk Hogan was the man. So at that time, I was like, this is unreal. Like I'm getting a chance to work with two guys that I've looked up to my entire life. And it's just it was very surreal, but at the same time, I got a chance to work alongside with them pretty closely. Rick was our guy. I guess you could call him our manager with Fortune. With AJ and Frankie, myself, and James. So I got to work with Rick a lot, side by side, and that was incredible. Got a chance to work with him in a cage match. I wrestled against him actually in a cage match. So at Lockdown, I believe it was, and that itself was amazing. And then you get into, you talk about Hulk Hogan. When I was the world champion, Hulk was there, and we did many in-rings together, just him and I in the ring. There I am standing in the middle of the ring, eye to eye with Hulk Hogan. So that was surreal. But like I said, at the same time, you have to look like you belong there. You don't want to be overshadowed by Hulk. You don't want to look like you're nervous or out of place. And that was one of the things I kept telling myself over and over again. Here I am, the world heavyweight champion. I'm about to walk down to the ring and cut Hulk Hogan off, and get it in his face and do my business. I want to make sure that I look like I belong there. I don't want to look like I don't belong there. And I think I was able to do that.
Bobby, I want to ask you this, and it's going to kind of segue, into the next question. But I want to ask you this. Listen, bro, when Hogan and Bischoff came in, bro, Jeff Jarrett was still there. Vince Russo was there. All of a sudden, bro, you're getting into a situation now that gets far more political than it was before. With all these different strong personalities, all the different accomplishments in the business. Now it starts getting a little bit more politics involved. Bobby, in wrestling, like it's kind of a known fact, the squeaky wheel, is always going to get the attention. The guy who is the most vocal, who is the giving the most trouble, who is giving their opinion, they tend to usually get what they want, basically just so you can, just so management can shut them up. That's kind of the way it is. Now, here you are, bro, the complete opposite. Bobby, I'm sure you have. In 10 years, I never saw you lose your cool. I never saw you get upset. I never saw you raise your voice. And I'm sure it's happened, but I never saw that. Now, Bobby, listen, you're an intelligent guy. You're probably at the top of the intelligence food chain, when it comes to the locker room. You're well aware of what's going on around you. You know the personalities. You know who's doing what. You're well aware of what's going on. Bro, how are you able to continue to be that, low keel, level headed, respectful guy when, I mean, Bobby, let's face it, you're in a business where a lot of times, Bobby, you're swimming with the sharks. And when people have the deposition that you have, unfortunately, like a lot of times, those people get eaten up. So what was the key, bro? What was the trick where you were able to remain true to yourself, remain a top guy, but be able to do it in such a respectful manner and never really have to go down that road and play that game? How did you outmaneuver people?
I mean, honestly, I mean, when you put it that way, I don't really know, because I mean, I was quite aware of how the wrestling business worked, and but that's just not the way I am. That's not who I am, and I never wanted to change that. Jeff Jarrett was my boss for a long time, but Jeff and I became pretty good friends, and became my mentor really. And whenever I had, instead of losing my cool or getting frustrated and doing the wrong thing, I'd always go to Jeff, and he always told me, and something that sticks in my mind and still sticks in my mind. He told me, he looked at me, and he said, "Bobby, the cream always rises to the top." Mm-hmm. And that's something that I always kept in mind. And regardless if it was Hulk making the decisions, if it was you, if it was Bruce Pritchard, Eric Bischoff, I was always respectful to everybody. And at the end of the day, when I hang my boots up, I just want to be known as the guy that was a pro's pro. A guy that never went out of his way to stab anybody in the back, was a friend to everybody, was a team player, worked hard, and never bitched and complained. And that's all. I don't want to be known as the greatest wrestler or anything like that. I want to be, I go out there and I try to be the greatest wrestler every time I go out there. It doesn't mean I am. I just want to be known as the guy that was a pro's pro. And I got along, I'm proud to say, even through the Dusty Rhodes days, dare I say the dark days of TNA, the better days of TNA, whatever, the last 11 plus years, I've got along. I can honestly say I've gotten along with every single guy and girl that has ever been in a position to control my career. And that isn't, I'm not ass kissing anybody. I'm just being a pro, and I'm just going out there and doing what I'm told to do. I'm not complaining, and I do it to the best of my abilities. And I think that's what got me to where I am today. And to be honest, when it comes to the guys who came before me, like the Hulks and the Ric Flairs and the Booker T's and the Kurt Angles and the guys the Kevin Nash's, the Scott Halls, I mean, you name it, they've all been through the front door at TNA, and I just continue to, do what I was taught to do from Sean Morley and my other trainers, was to be humble, be respectful, and do your job. And it's got me to where I am today.
Well, and there's no question about that. And bro, it definitely helped get you to where you are today. But, I mean, Bobby, I would have to think that had to start way before Sean Morley came into your life. I mean, that had to start with mom and dad and the way you were raised. I mean, you have such a strong, respectful character. That's something, bro, I would have to believe started forming at a very early age.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in life, I think I was the same way with teachers and family and friends and stuff. I don't think I've gained any enemies over my lifetime. Maybe I have, but I mean, I guess you carry what you learn as you grow up into your profession. And, I definitely had a great upbringing.
I got to ask you this, bro. Have you ever been in any physical fights?
Couple hockey fights,
but yeah, I mean,
but that doesn't count.
Yeah, but outside of that, like, have you ever had a fight with anybody?
I got into one 2 fights. Really 2 fights in my entire life.
Bro,
Yeah.
Bobby, is there one thing, bro, like, is there one thing that, like, sets you off? I mean, is there a one thing, like, do not go there because then you're going to see something you don't want to see? There's got to be something like that going on, bro.
Well, obviously my kids,
Right.
You mess with my kids. Yeah. That's, family is important. So you don't, I guess that would set me off. Nobody's really challenged me on that yet. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, Bobby, I got to ask you this now, too, because you kind of brought it up, and I know the relationship with Jeff. I know that. Bro, how difficult was it, though, where all of a sudden, you come to the TV in Orlando after all these years, after Jeff being, the guy that was responsible for bringing you in. Of course, Scott brought you to Jeff's attention, but Jeff had to be the one to say yes, bring him in. So, bro, I give Jeff credit for all you guys. You, Eric Young, the more brought them in, but Jeff had to give the blessing, and he did. Bro, how difficult was it for you to all of a sudden come one day to Orlando, and after all those years and everything he had done for you, Jeff Jarrett isn't there anymore?
It was tough. Yeah, it was tough. And I mean, Jeff and I still talk back and forth. Most of the time, it's not really about wrestling stuff. It's just, either, hey, how's it going? Predators suck. Wings are number one, that type of thing. Yeah, it was actually pretty devastating to me, when Jeff decided to leave. I honestly, to be honest, I re-signed my contract. I think a year before he decided to leave. How long has Jeff been gone now? A couple of years, right? Since he's gone,
bro. God, I bet you we're looking at I bet you we're looking at closer to 5, because I've been gone for about 3, and he was gone before No. He was still there. Probably out of the picture 100%. Probably going on 3 years.
Yeah, I want to say it was around a Christmas time that I remember he resigned from TNA. But I mean, I resigned with TNA and a couple of times I've had, over the 11 years, I've re-signed and re-upped my contract. And a lot of it was to do with the loyalty that I wanted to keep to the company and the friendship that I had with Jeff. So when he left the last time, it was pretty devastating. He was, like I said, he's a friend and a guy who I look up to and has mentored me really for the last 11 years. And he was my boss. And honestly, I before TNA, I was busting my butt trying to get a job with WWE. I was doing dark matches. EY was with me. We would travel 10, 15 hours just to be seen. I live in Toronto, and we would drive to Cleveland because they said you might have a chance to have a dark match. And, I was doing that for years just to get noticed. And then Scott called me out of the blue and said, you want to come to Nashville and fill in for Teddy Hart? We need a guy for Team Canada. At the time, I was kind of down and out with wrestling because I was, putting myself out there so much. I was changing my look. I was changing my, everything about my game. I was trying to change so that it would open people's eyes. And so at the time when Scott called me, I said, yeah, sure. So I went down there not expecting anything. And, Jeff Jarrett approached me, told me to go see Bob Ryder. Bob Ryder wrote me up a contract, and I went home with it. And that was in 2 weeks. And I mean, I was just and that started a friendship that, and a respect thing for Jeff. And then, Jeff was the guy that founded TNA. He was the guy that gave an alternative to wrestling fans. And so I respect Jeff a lot. And then when he left, it was, I don't think it was just devastating to me and a shock to me. I think it was a shock and devastation to a lot of the boys.
Yeah. Bobby, I have to ask you this, and I'm going to bring it up. And again, we're going to go a little behind the curtain. And Bobby, but the way I do things here, bro, I don't mention names. I'm not that guy. I don't believe in that. It's not important to the story, the names involved. So I don't go down that road. I don't believe in it. But I do want to say this, Bobby, because we need to talk about this incident. Bound for Glory 2011. Okay. Now, Bobby, myself and Matt Conway were doing the writing. The story was written and the pieces were put in place that October 16th, 2011, Bobby Roode is going to become the first time the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. We interviewed the family for a reason because Bobby was going to be a babyface. He was going to be the babyface champion. Now, keep in mind, this wasn't a decision that was just made. This was a decision that was made months prior. The pieces were put into place. We told the story, everything that we wanted to do. The night before, me and Conway sit down with Bobby, and bro, I think we're as excited as you are. Because this, bro, listen, when you're a writer, and even though, bro, the belt, nobody wins it and nobody loses it. But when it finally finds its way to somebody that's so deserving and worked so hard, that means a lot to the writer. Because the writer knows it means a lot to the performer. So I think Matt and I were just as excited as you are. I mean, no question. It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. And we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait for it to happen, So, bro, we go into the production meeting the day of Bound for Glory, and right before our very eyes, me and Matt are watching the changing of the finish. And Matt and I are looking at each other like, you've got to be effing kidding me. And I'm trying to chime in, bro, but I'm not. I'm just going to say this part of it, okay? When you have the right people, it's not too difficult to convince Dixie Carter of something. So once it got to the level of Dixie being convinced that this other way was better, at that point it becomes a losing battle. So, like, at that point, there's nothing more you can say. There's nothing more you can do. Now, after all these months of planning, now the finish is going to be changed. And you know what, bro? At that point, all I care about is my friend Bobby Roode, who freaking earned this, over years, earned this with work ethic and the way you carried yourself and being a company guy. And, so now I have to go, we have to go and we have to tell Bobby. And I hated it, bro. I hated everything about it. I don't agree with the decision this day. I feel you would have went on a different path if it never went down. But listen, Bobby, I have to ask you, as much of a pro's pro as you are, I saw that same set of circumstances, Bobby, happen to somebody else. And when that happened, that incident put them on a downward spiral. Fact, I saw it happen. Now we come to you, we explain it to you. Bro, listen, there is a level of disappointment. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But even at that point, Bobby, how were you able to overcome that and rise above that? Because like I said, bro, as the writer, I'm pissed off that this isn't happening for you. And no matter if you're not selling or not, inside, you got to be extremely disappointed. How did you work your way through that? What was the process?
It was funny. I mean, I remember that time. I actually remember it like it was yesterday. Like you said, I went down for dinner and I was sitting by myself, and Matt came over and, just kind of touched base with me and let me know that things were good. And so I went to bed that night, waking up the next morning, got some texts from some family and some friends. I had a buddy of mine flying down to Philly to watch. Got to the arena. I was feeling good. So like you said, the production meeting, the agents meeting starts, I think, at probably around 12 or 1. We got to report to the building around 12 or 1. So normally it gets out. Usually pay-per-views are pretty simple, if I'm right. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. You're in and out of there in about an hour. Everybody's in catering, getting ready for the show. But that particular day was, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Still nobody's out. Start walking up and down the halls. go out to the ringside area, hanging out there. Now it's like 2:30, 2:45. Nobody's out of the meeting, which is very unusual. So Frankie and AJ come over to me. We start, just shooting the breeze or whatever. They know what's going to happen that night. So we're talking. And I turned to AJ and I said, it's 3:00. You watch. They're changing the finish. 10 minutes later, D'Lo Brown comes up to me and says, Bruce wants to talk to you in his office. And I knew right then it was done. It was finished. They changed it. Honestly, I don't know if I was upset, I guess, like you said, the world championship, the title, the belt, it is what it is. It was my first time I've ever, it was such a build. It was a 6-month build, really, that you put into it and that we all put into it. Mm-hmm. And then for it to change in 3 hours was pretty devastating. It was a shock for sure. And I don't know if it was you that was more pissed off or if it was me or if it was Kurt Angle that was pissed off. Kurt was upset. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to do it. But I don't know. It's one of those things. It's the way I am. It's just, okay, this is how you want to do it. Fine. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have a great match. And then if you're telling me that a couple weeks down the road, this is what we're going to do and this is the direction that we're going to go into, and I'll just take your word for it, because obviously, things change like that in this business. So I'm not going to take anything for granted, but I'm going to go out there and I'm going to prove to you that I should be the world champion and, and see where this goes. Honestly, it was disappointing, but when it was all said and done that night, I went down and ate dinner, and it wasn't like I was staying away from anybody or pissed off at anybody in particular. It was just one of those things that in this business, it's so unpredictable. Nothing is for sure.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, obviously, like Jeff said, and the funny thing was I had the same conversation with Eric Young at one point. The cream always rises to the top. Eventually, the championship comes to you. You hold it for, I think, the longest reign, like something like 250 days or something like that, Bobby. But, then, bro, you lose it to, Aries. And listen, bro, I'm just going to say this. I think, when I was there consulting, man, I just felt that there were so many knee-jerk reactions to switching the title. And listen, anybody that knows wrestling knows you can switch the title a million times. It's not going to give you a bump in the ratings. Ratings come with being consistent and putting on good shows over time. They took the belt off of you, at a point, that I never thought they should have. And, it went to Aries, and then it got flip-flopped again between, you and Lashley. And me personally, I think that does that does more harm than good. Eric, I think he's the perfect scenario. I don't think that was a good idea. I think that harmed Eric more than it helped him. But that's just my opinion. On things. I just think if they would have ran with you even longer, you would have been even stronger than you are now. And I'm not even going to ask you to comment on that, Bobby, because I'm not going to sit here and tell you, to disagree with TNA's creative. I want to ask you this though, Bobby, and I think this is a legitimate question, and this is not a shot at TNA or anything like that. I think anybody would ask you this question, and TNA would agree with this. Listen, bro, there's the WWE. We all know that the WWE is that's where everybody strives to go. Now, you can work at TNA and you can work at various other promotions, but there's no way in the world that in the mind of a professional wrestler, achieving the goal of, either being on top of the WWE or being in a match at WrestleMania, that's where you achieve to go. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, Bobby, you've put, almost 12 years in at TNA. You've done everything there you possibly can do. You're getting up there now in the latter years of your career. How does that sit with you, bro? Where like you accomplished so much at TNA in this one organization. You helped make TNA what it is, Bobby. No question about that. You're a guy that has been there for 11, 12 years. And like I said, different chapters of your career. You've been the backbone of that company. But I mean, Bobby, has there always been, you know what? There's that one thing I didn't do. What was that always a part of the dream when you first got into the business?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, the only thing that I got to watch was WWF, WWE. Now, my entire life growing up. So when I was eager to get into the business and become a wrestler, it was all, the WWE was the reason why. Guys like Hulk Hogan and Kurt Hennig and Ravishing Rick Rude and Macho Man, those guys, growing up watching these guys, that's why I wanted to be a wrestler. And, the WWE is such a huge machine. It's a company that's been around for forever, my lifetime. So breaking in, like I said earlier in the interview, I mean, I was trying to go there before TNA came around to me. I was trying to be seen there. I was trying to get a job there. I was all about going to the WWE and trying to get a spot there. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And TNA kind of brought me in and has given me 11 unbelievable years and has allowed me to live my dream, support my family, and to do what I love to do. And everything, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and what's meant to be is meant to be. And Dixie Carter has been nothing but supportive of me, and like I said, I just, as a pro, you just want to go to work and you want to do the best you can for whoever it is or whoever you're in there with, whether it's an in-ring, whether it's a match, whatever it is. I think that whatever I've gotten to this point, I think I've earned and I think I've deserved. And moving forward, I mean, I am getting up in my years. I'm getting older, but I feel great. I think right now I'm in the best shape of my life. I work out every day. I'm starting to run 5K 3 times a week. I'm running now. I'm doing different kind of workouts now because my body is getting older, and I've been in the ring taking bumps now for 15 plus years. So I'm learning different things in the gym and how to stay in shape and to feel better. And like I said, I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. So, looking forward into my career, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, what's meant to be is going to happen. And I'm just, happy that I've been able to be where I am right now with wrestling and for the last 11 years at TNA.
Hey, Bobby, I want to ask you this question, bro. Because listen, you've accomplished everything there. I mean, everything. You've accomplished more there, bro. I think it's fair to say you've accomplished more there than anybody else. You've been there the longest. You've done it all there. Obviously, too, Bobby, you're not a money guy. You're just not. It's never about X amount. I want to make X amount of dollars, and it's not the motivation of money. So that's what I want to ask you. At this point in your career, having done it all, not being motivated by making more money, I know that's not you. What keeps you motivated these days, bro? What is it for you that keeps it fresh and exciting and different and keeps you going? Because like I said, Bobby, you've done it all.
Yeah, I mean, I have, honestly, I had that conversation with Matt Conway. It's like, I feel like I need to refresh myself, refresh my character, do something different. And, I still have the passion for wrestling. I mean, it's still there. I'm happy to say, like, I'm going to be doing some stuff with Austin Aries as a tag team again. And, even though I'm out of the world title picture, Austin and I have some really good chemistry together, and I'm looking forward to possibly working with the Hardys and doing some fun stuff like that. So I'm excited about that. But it's wrestling, man. It's pro wrestling. It's something that I've dreamed about as a kid. It's something that I've always wanted to do. The last 11 years, I've been able to support my family doing and travel the world. Something that I never thought I'd get a chance to do. So it's just wanting to continue to wrestle and continue to try to be one of the best and continue to make a name for myself, so that one day down the road I can still continue to be in wrestling when I can't go anymore in the ring. I want to learn the ins and outs of wrestling. I want to learn, how to produce a match. I want to learn about the TV aspect of it. I want to learn how to properly train guys the right way and just help the guys that are coming up, for years to come, and be in that situation where my brain and my knowledge and what I've been through and what I've seen, I can help and provide for the younger guys coming up.
Yeah, and Bobby, you would, bro, trust me, you would make a phenomenal agent. And bro, agent, to me, Bobby, I think agents are the hardest. I think that's the hardest position to fill, because you need to find somebody at that sweet spot in age where they can still relate to, the 20-something guys coming up. And I think an agent is the hardest spot to fill. I think you'd be absolutely phenomenal. I want to ask you this, Bobby, and then we'll wrap it up shortly after this, because you brought it up. I talked about the influence of a Flair and an influence of the Hogan. What has been the influence of a Kurt Angle to Bobby Roode and being able to work so closely with him for so many years?
Kurt is, in my opinion, I think Kurt is the best that there's ever been in this business. And I spoke in an interview recently about how good Kurt really is. And, I look back into my early days as a wrestler, whether it's on film or on the internet, I can look it up and I'll watch back my matches to the early days of TNA, and I'll do something in the ring and I'll ask, and I'll say to myself, what was I doing there? Why was I doing that? That makes no sense, or that looks terrible. You look back at Kurt's career when he first came into the business as an Olympic athlete, as an amateur wrestler, in professional wrestling. I can honestly say that I don't ever think I saw a bad match out of Kurt Angle from the beginning of his career to this point. The guy is he is a cyborg. I mean, the guy is always in incredible shape, no matter how injured he is or how I'm not going to say old, because that's not right, but I mean, he's an older guy. He's a veteran, but he goes out there and he works harder than anybody else in our locker room every single night. And whether it's an in-ring segment or in the ring, I mean, his in-ring stuff is, as far as I'm concerned, his entire career has been second to none. And I mean, the guy can do anything. He can be a heel. He can be a babyface. He can be funny. He can make you cry. He can make you laugh. And those are all the things, as a professional wrestling fan, you want to see out of a guy. And I think Kurt provides that. And I think just his knowledge and his guidance. I mean, like you said, I got a chance to work with Kurt very closely. Bound for Glory that we were just talking about. It was me and Kurt in the main event. And he's just an incredible wrestler and an incredible human being. And I respect the hell out of him.
Yeah, he's again, bro. You and him, I mean, just came out of the same cloth, bro. I mean, if anyone in wrestling deserves to be a diva, it's freaking Kurt Angle, and he's anything but. I mean, just a sweetheart, of a man. And Bobby, let's make sure we plug TNA, Destination America now Friday nights. Hey, Bobby, being there so long, obviously you were there through the whole Spike run, as was I, through a lot of it. Obviously I didn't work for Destination America. Is there a difference for you, or a feel for you or the boys changing television networks, or is it business as usual, or is anything different with Destination America than the way that Spike did business?
I don't believe so. I mean, I don't try to ask too many questions. I just show up to work and do what I'm there to do. It's a different network. So there's growing pains and stuff like that. Destination America's never had pro wrestling before. So there's a lot of growing pains there, but we're getting through it. They seem to be great partners for us. They're excited about the future. We're excited about the future. It's just, it's good to have a good partner, and obviously they've put a lot of time and effort into promoting us, which is what we've needed. we're A1 priority on their channel right now, which is huge for us. So, we needed some extra promotion. We needed some extra help to try to get people to know who Impact Wrestling is, TNA Wrestling is, and who we are and what we stand for. So we're trying to spread the word. They're trying to spread the word. So I think Destination America is going to be a perfect partner for us.
Well, I'm sure, Bobby, you kind of, you probably knew beforehand anyway, I'm not sure, but I'm sure you heard the news that came out of Nashville today, correct? Creative as it pertains to TNA?
Yeah, I just actually, before I got on to talk to you, I got a text, so I don't know too much about it. But
well, first of all, bro, on the surface, just name recognition and face value and all that alone, a Billy Corgan coming to a TNA and Destination America is only going to help the product. But I got to tell you this, Bobby, I know Billy. I've had conversations with Billy. And bro, I got to tell you, I don't throw the word genius around a lot, but I know when people are on a different level. And my kids and I, thanks to Jeremy Boresh, we got to spend a lot of time with Billy, one night before one of his concerts. And literally I got to hear him talk for 90 minutes or 2 hours. We've had various phone conversations. Bro, this guy's on a different level as far as genius. And you can't even explain the creativity that comes out of a real artist. So I think that's going to be a great move for TNA. People have asked me about it, and my only drawback is, there's a system in place. There was a system in place when I was there, and I hope they let this guy run because he's a unique breed. He's creative out the freaking wazoo, and I think he's only going to help the process.
I hope so. I met Billy backstage at a show in Chicago a couple of years back. That was the only conversation I've ever had with him, and it was brief. So I don't know much about him. I know that obviously he's a huge, he's obviously a big success in the music business. And what you just said, I also heard about him too. And he's been a wrestling fan for many years. So I believe he also had a wrestling promotion himself that he was running. So, his name alone has brought a lot of attention already just in the last few hours to Impact Wrestling. So that's huge for our company. And, looking forward to meeting him here in the next couple of weeks.
Bobby, I want to ask you one last question, and I'll wrap it up and I'll let you go. I noticed, Bobby, you're doing some work for a Dreamer and the House of Hardcore promotion. You've worked for Tommy, right?
Yeah, of course.
I got to ask you this question now. Between you and me, let's make believe nobody is listening, and it's just you and me, bro. We're in the corner somewhere in Universal Studios, just talking amongst ourselves, bro. Bro, have you ever met a human being who puts themselves over more than Mr. Tommy Dreamer, bro? Listen, bro, I'm not even exaggerating. When Tommy takes a dump, bro, 60 seconds later, it's on Twitter, and he's talking about how over his dump was, Bobby.
No, that's Tommy for you. You gotta love him, right? You gotta love him. He's so unique. But I've known Tommy for over a decade now, and he's one of my closest buddies. We've when we were on the road together, we would travel together, stay together sometimes, and he's a character. I've stayed at his house, so.
Well, bro, what's better than that, though, to be honest with you? Listen, I always kid around, and I always kid around with him, too. Dreamer is the greatest self-promoter. But, bro, now that he's got his own promotion, who better than Tommy Dreamer?
That's right. And it's successful, too. Very successful, and I'm happy for him. And like you said, I've been fortunate enough to participate in some of the House of Hardcore shows, and they've been phenomenal. So I wish him nothing but the best of luck. And it's great. It's great for wrestling. It's great for the wrestling fans, and it's great for the talent. So more wrestling, the better.
Bobby, I don't want to forget this. I just remembered it because I want to give everybody credit with their due too. But bro, I know when I was there too, I know freaking bro Bubba loved freaking working with you and thought you were just the utmost professional. And I would think too, bro, that you were probably able to drain a lot from him as well.
Yes, absolutely. Bubba and I are pretty good friends. We're close friends. Like I said, like Dreamer, we traveled everywhere together on the road. It was just him and I in a car, and most of the times stayed together, ate together, went to the gym together. So he was a guy that I went to. He was, at the time, I was looked at as a veteran to some of the guys in the room, but he was really the only guy on the road that was a veteran to me. And to me in wrestling, that's, the outside of the ring stuff is just as important as the in-ring stuff. So I wanted to pick his brain, and I wanted to get some of the stuff that he's learned, prior to coming to TNA. So I always tried to look to Bubba for guidance, for info, just when I'm on a 3-hour drive, just to hear some good stories, and Bubba and I hit it off. We had a lot of things in common, and I enjoyed working with him. I mean, Storm and I had some great matches with him and Devon. It's just, he's gone now. He's not with us anymore, but with TNA, but he's going to be successful somewhere else, I know. And, he's just an all around really good guy, and we got along great.
Yeah. Well, Bobby, listen, now it's time. You got to get the focus on Game 6, bro. We got the big game tonight. The Red Wings have to move on, not like the lowly Predators and, Eric. Oh, they play a great game. Yeah, Eric, your Aunt Tilly played a great game. They lost. They're out of the Stanley Cups. Now we got to move on with the Redskins. But listen, Bobby, I don't
Red Wings.
What am I saying? Redskins. I know it's the Red Wings. And listen, bro, tonight, let's hope Gordy gets the hat trick tonight, bro. You know what I mean?
Hey, you know what? Have I ever had this conversation with you? Do you know what a hat trick is?
3 goals, baby.
3 goals by one player, right?
Yeah.
So in one game. So in one game, a player will score 3 goals. That's a hat trick. Right? Okay. Do you know what a natural hat trick is?
A natural hat trick. If I had a guess, I would say 3 unassisted goals.
3 goals in a row is a natural hat trick.
Okay.
Now, did you know there's a Gordie Howe hat trick?
Oh, boy. What is this? Educate me, Bobby. Educate me.
The Gordie Howe hat trick is the best hat trick of all, because a Gordie Howe hat trick consists of 1 goal, 1 assist, and 1 fight in the same game.
Bro, was Gordy a fighter, bro?
He was everything. He's Mr. Hockey. He was a tough guy, and not a lot of people fought him, but that's it's a true story. That's what they say. The Gordie Howe hat trick is a goal, an assist, and a fight in a game, and it happened a lot in his career.
Bro, who is your all-time favorite?
Steve Yzerman.
Yzerman.
No, Yzerman, like eyes.
All right, hey, Bobby, listen, I don't want to just thank you for this interview, and of course I thank you, bro. Listen, I got a 2-time world heavyweight champion on my show. That's a big deal, but I want to thank you for the 10 years, Bobby, of making my job so easy and making it just a joy to be around you and work with you and have a relationship with you. I never got to tell you that, but I'm glad that I have this opportunity to tell you now, Bobby. And I'm grateful, bro, that you are a part of my life.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, Vince, and I enjoyed working with you. Like I said, I don't think there was ever a person that came through the creative front door at TNA that I didn't really get along with, and you're one of those guys. So I appreciate what you just said, and I enjoyed my time working with you.
Okay, Bobby, don't go anywhere because I want to give you a personal goodbye, but I'm going to wrap up the show now, everybody. This was another great episode of Shoot to Thrill, 2-time champion Bobby Roode. I want to get this over for TNA, Destination America, Friday nights. Now, Billy Corgan, a part of the creative team. It's going to be interesting to see what Billy can do. Add maybe a little sizzle to the steak, like JR used to say. But, as always, I want to thank you that support me. I want to thank the brand, and I will be back here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Thanks a lot, Bobby.
The preceding presentation was brought to you by the Realm Network.